Hey, Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger Podcast, where each and every week we hang out with the greatest harmonica players in the music business. If you're watching this on the Harpslinger YouTube page, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. That way we can let you know when we have fresh new content available, which, by the way, is every Tuesday. Comes out at 3:15 Central Standard Time. Also, many of you are watching this on the Honer Music Facebook page. If you're watching on the Honer Music Facebook page, hit the share button, share it to your personal profile. We would sure appreciate you guys spreading the word. All right, everybody. We're in for a big one this week. You know, I say that every week, but they just keep getting better and better. Over more than a 40-year career, my next guest has been featured on more than 300 recordings, won 2 Grammy Awards, composed the first concerto for the diatonic harmonica, and co-founded the groundbreaking bluegrass fusion group Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. He's also the sinister minister that innovated the use of overblows and overdraws on the diatonic harmonica. Please make him welcome, everybody, Mr. Howard Levy. Hi, Howard. How are you, man? Great to see you. Thank you for joining us here on the podcast. It's great to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
Yeah. So you're in freezing cold Chicago at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trapped, my wife and I, in our little bubble, looking
Yeah.
out of the snow. I feel like I'm in the inside of a snow globe lately.
I'm sure, and about to get the deep freeze, which will probably lock you in for even longer than you would like to be, right? Yeah. Well, so Howard, I know you're not originally from Chicago. You were originally, if correct me if I'm wrong, from New York City.
That's correct. I was born in Brooklyn and grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, and lived in Manhattan for a little while. But in between those things, I came out to go to college at Northwestern University in Evanston,
Mm-hmm.
just north of Chicago. And that's, I ended up coming back out here, and I've been living here since 1972.
Right on. Well, it's a great harmonica town, so it's sort of fitting that you're there. You know.
Yes, yes. This is where I learned how to play harmonica. I didn't play when I was growing up in New York. I just, I played piano from the age of 8 or so, 8.5 years old.
Okay. All right.
Picked up harmonica from hearing Chicago blues. I tried when I was about 18, I guess it was. I bought my first harp at Manny's Music on
Yeah.
West 48th Street,
Uh-huh.
and for $2.25, it was a Honer,
Yeah, nice.
of course.
Yeah, of course. What
uh,
else, right?
what else, man? And that started me down my life of trouble that I've been ever since.
I hear you. Who were some of your favorite harp players when you were who caught your ear?
Well, a friend of mine, his older sister had a boyfriend who really liked Chicago blues. And this was unusual in New York. There wasn't a blues scene in New York. It was
Mm-hmm.
a very small one. I'm talking about the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Before blues was that well known in America in general. You had to be in a place where the blues was, like Chicago or places in the South,
Mm-hmm.
or, the northern industrial cities. But New York City is more of like like Broadway
Mm-hmm.
and all the greatest jazz musicians
Sure.
and a lot of classical music. And so I was blown away when my friend played me this. Like, I had never heard harmonica like that before. Maybe I'd heard someone play "Oh Susanna," but hearing Paul Butterfield and Junior Wells and Little Walter and James Cotton, hearing these guys on record, it just blew me away. And then I had a chance to go hear some of them play live at a club in the Village. And in New York, you could get into clubs. It didn't matter how old you were. I think we were 16 or 17 years old. And it was a double bill of James Cotton with his greatest band, with Luther Tucker on guitar,
Yeah.
uh, piano player, Albert Gianquinto, I think was his name. It was just a great band. And Paul Butterfield, the Pig Boy Crabshaw Band with Elvin Bishop and David Sanborn in the horn
Wow.
section.
Wow.
And I just was absolutely blown away. I mean, these guys were so great and their band sounded so great. I said, I gotta play this music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I went home and figured out the blues progression on piano. I said, oh, I know that. I've been playing this for years. It just didn't, it hadn't all gelled in my head until I saw these guys got that super heavy dose of amazing and creative
Yeah.
blues playing, especially Butterfield. I mean, he was like the Miles Davis of blues. I mean, he gathered all the best musicians around him and just let everybody be who they were, their fullest. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't all about him, but
Right.
he had this incredible stage presence of 150% soul every second he played. And so then a little bit later, I wanted to play harp because the drummer in our band, who had the blues records, he taught himself how to play harmonica.
Okay.
Uh, really, really good musician, very talented guy, played a bunch of instruments. And I thought, hey, if the drummer can do this, surely great piano player, I could figure this little instrument out.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't. It took a while. I mean, just bending a note, like just getting one note at a time.
Right.
It took me months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did he teach you to bend, or did you learn to bend on your own?
No, he couldn't teach me. I took the subway over to his house. I said, "Okay, I just bought my first harp, man. Show me how you do that stuff." He
Yeah.
said, "I can't." I said, "What do you mean you can't?" He said, I don't know how I'm doing it. It's just like riding a bicycle. It's like, it's instinct. It's this thing that you do inside your mouth." And I said, "Wow, gee whiz. I mean, I thought you could show me." So I walked around for quite a while. It was actually a G harp, uh, because the guy at Manny's said, "Yeah, we have them in all 12 keys, and G is the lowest one or something." I don't know why I picked a G, but I picked
Yeah.
a G. And
Right.
so I sounded approximately like this, something like that in the beginning for about 5 or 6 months. And when I guess I was still in high school, and one day someone came up behind me in the hall and grabbed the harmonica out of my hands and threw it out the window and
Wow.
said, "Levy, why don't you stick to the piano?" And I ran out of the school, out of the door, and I ran and got my blues harp and
Yeah.
made sure it was okay and unbent the cover plates a little bit, and it still played
Yeah.
as well as I could play it. But I didn't give up. And then actually, it's a long story, but the day I bent my first note, it was freshman orientation week at Northwestern. I didn't know a soul. And I went to a political rally
Uh-huh.
for a bunch of guys who've been in the news lately because there was a feature film made about them,
Mm. Okay.
Chicago 7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was in this lecture hall with about 500 other kids, and they were having this big rally, and they all got up and spoke. Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin and Tom Hayden and all of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
The names are escaping me. Rennie Davis, he was the other big one of the 7. Um, and it was really heavy. And of course, the Vietnam War was the big issue of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been very involved in the peace movement and marched in a lot of those marches in New York and when I was in high school. And so I felt, really like it was a very important thing for me to go and be at this thing. Um, I had not taken a class yet. I was just trying to figure out where I was and sign up for classes. And so I walked out of this hall just feeling kind of, wow, what do I do now? Like, I don't know anybody. And it was sort of heavy seeing those guys all speak about their things. They all had very distinct personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I said, why don't I try playing this harmonica again?
Wow.
And I took it out of my pocket and suddenly I bent my first note.
Oh man. So it was like
Old draw.
divinely inspired. You were inspired, and
I don't know what it was. It was like I wasn't in Kansas anymore.
right.
Somehow that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
I was in the home of the blues,
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. I mean, it's not the home of the blues; it's the home of the urban blues.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And something in the air, I don't know what it was, but that's when I started uh, playing. And within a half hour, I was playing all these licks that I had heard everybody play.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, now I can bend this hole. And now how about this one and this one? And I was just so excited. I was just jumping out of my skin. And I went to a payphone and stuck a whole bunch of quarters in and started calling my friends who lived all over the country. Hey, listen to this, man. Listen to what I can do. Yeah, it was really like the first day of the rest of my life.
That's fantastic. Did you take advantage of going out then and seeing some of these great, like, some of the great harp players that were in Chicago at the time playing on weekends? And was that?
Well, at first I was just trying not to flunk out of school,
Yeah,
but
I hear you. Right, right.
but they had some concerts. They brought in some people to Northwestern, and I got to see Howlin' Wolf
Uh-huh.
and oh God, who else? Just a whole bunch of Johnny Littlejohn and oh, I'm like
Tons, I'm sure.
spacing on, but
Yeah.
like, at that, and then I formed a band,
Okay.
a blues band with my friends at Northwestern and a friend of mine and some of his friends at Lake Forest College, a little north of here. We had a horn section, and my friend who I had played with in Brooklyn, and he was a real good guitar player. And so at first I was just playing piano, but then as my harmonica playing started getting better, I started playing more harp in the band too. And within about 3 months is when I practiced constantly.
Mhm.
And the harmonica is an instrument, I think, that even more than most, you got to practice it a lot when you first start playing because you can't see it.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I'll sit down at the piano and play a B. Like, where's a B here? I mean, like, you have to have a good ear,
Right.
and you just have to make this thing like an extension of your body. Just play it all the time and get the feel for what it's like. Like I said, kind of like riding a bicycle.
Hmm.
And I'm practicing away and trying to play scales too, because being a piano player, you know, I had practiced my scales and arpeggios, all that stuff, and played a bunch of classical, and had already been starting to write some pretty cool, very good jazz compositions actually when I was 17. Um, so I had a lot of catching up to do with this thing. And so, after I got past the ability to play basic blues licks, I wanted to play some scales. And so, like, G major is, you can play, uh, but I couldn't play D major scale. It has that flat seventh because it's
Right.
the Mixolydian mode. It's I didn't even know that word yet. Yeah, second position,
Right. Sure.
which is what the great gift of this instrument gives us, and that's a whole other topic. I mean, that the Germans accidentally invented the world's greatest blues instrument. It's a mind-blowing thing.
It's mind blowing. I know it is.
And so I tried. On the G harmonica, the missing note is the C sharp, and it's like, well, so far in my life, I have seen a lot of people play a lot of instruments, and all the instruments have all the notes on them.
Mhm.
I mean, that's like the definition of a musical instrument is it can play all the notes, except for a bugle.
Right.
I thought they must be here. So, after I figured out that the notes you get in bends are the difference between the highest and lowest pitches on a whole. Like, for example, the second whole, you've got D and B, so you can actually even flatter than C. And the third hole, there's four notes in there. I thought, oh, this is cool. This is how it works.
Yeah.
There's some sort of interaction between the reeds. And of course, I didn't understand what it was, but I just knew musically that's what was happening. And then I discovered after about 2 or 3 months that there were these blow bends on top of the harmonica. I thought,
Mhm.
well, the top is backwards. So all that stuff, I thought, oh, that's a great sound. Because some of my harmonica heroes never went up there and played that stuff.
I mean, even Butterfield, right, didn't do a lot of stuff up top.
No, Butterfield never really went above the sixth hole. Every once in a while, he'd have the seventh hole or something. I mean, but nothing on top. And I thought, wow, it's a whole other world up there.
Mhm.
And it took a while to get my lips to be able to like do that as well as do the other thing without feeling like my cheeks were gonna fall off.
Fall off. Right. Yeah.
So I got that, and then I'm just hearing like where are these missing notes? There are places there. It turns out there's 6 places on the harmonica where you can't bend a note down to get a missing note. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. There must be some other way of doing it. I can't play even the standard, the 4 chord. Won't give me a flat seventh there. And even to play the standard lick, guitar lick, like straight across the frets. I play guitar too. I can't play the flat third of the 1 chord or the seventh of the 4 chord, except if I go, you can get it down there.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy. So I'm sitting around going, what happens? I can't bend the blow notes on the bottom. I can't bend the draw notes on the top of the harmonica. What if I try? Uh, why not try? It's just simple logic. Like, okay, try to bend the blow note on the bottom. So I'm playing sixth hole blow, and I get this weird sound. It's like it sounds like distortion, like two notes. Then I realize that the top note in there is actually the F that's missing. And I sort of tune my embouchure a little, and now I can do, or so this was like a mind blower.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I wonder if these things are there in the other places on the harp where they're missing, like to be able to play a D major scale. You have the C sharp. What happens if I try to bend the 5 blow down? It pops up to a C sharp. So I figured out that when I called it overblowing, which is a terrible name for it, because I didn't know what I was doing. I asked a saxophone player friend of mine, and he said, "It sounds like you're overblowing harmonics." So I went, "Oh, okay." I
Right.
didn't know anything.
Yeah.
It's not what you're doing at all. But so the basic musical idea is that if you try to blow bend the lower note on the hole, the pitch that pops up is a half step higher than the blow note,
Okay.
than the draw note rather.
Hmm.
Sorry.
With
So like on the sixth hole, you get six blow is D, six draw is E flat and E, and then there's that seven draw that's F. So I mean F sharp rather. So the F natural, if you overblow six blow, it's half step higher than E, which is the six draw.
okay.
So that's all I knew, is that overblows are a half step higher than the draw note on the hole.
Hmm.
So I got all the first hole, fourth hole, fifth hole, sixth hole. So now, so I got 2 octave chromatic scale, and this was really exciting. And I never heard anyone else do anything like this. And
Hmm.
I thought, it's impossible. I'm just an 18-year-old college freshman. Like, someone must have done this before me. Uh, but there are no recordings of anyone doing it before me. And so, I mean, I didn't worry about that aspect of it. I was just interested in exploring the instrument.
Hmm.
So then the top octave was the exact opposite, because the blows and draws are reversed. The blows are higher. So to get the missing 2 notes up there, there's no A flat. So if you overdraw on the F sharp, which is a 7th hole draw, you get the G sharp or A flat.
Wow.
And those are just bends and doing them in tune. And I'll tell how I do that. And then the E flat is on the 9th hole draw. So now I have a 3 octave chromatic scale. And really what it is I'll make it short. I see the piano keyboard in my mind
Hmm.
when I'm playing, in order to have a frame of reference to what I'm doing, because you can't see this thing.
Right.
So to know what notes you're playing, instead of thinking 4 with a little arrow like this for,
Right. Hello.
and 4 with an arrow like this for the inhale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the harp gives you a lot. You can play all sorts of stuff without knowing what notes you're playing. But to really think about what notes you're playing, like I would do on a piano, or like you do on a guitar, saxophone,
Mhm.
you have to have some sort of framework, some sort of knowledge of music, from an instrument where you can see the notes. And in my case, it was the piano.
Right, right. So, Howard, what advice do you give those players that don't play piano? How much theory does it take for a player to step out of the blues, the rock, blues, country world, and step into more of a jazz or standards or Middle Eastern music? I mean, you definitely need to have some theory behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Manhattan School of Music when I was a kid on Saturdays for 4 years, from age 9 to 12, and I took classical piano lessons as well as music theory in a class.
Hmm.
So all this stuff was explained to me. Now, I had been improvising before I knew any music theory. You know, my first like 6 months of playing piano, where a teacher came to the house, I just started making up my own stuff. I mean, it was in me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like some kids are just naturally talented at sports, and other people can just pick up a pencil and draw things that look real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have different abilities, and so for me to study theory, it just like it was like an aha thing. Oh, that's how all this stuff works,
Yeah.
because I didn't really know how it worked, or what the names of things were. So everyone's a little different, depends on your starting point. Some people don't need to study a lot of theory in order to do all this kind of stuff, but it sure helps to know it,
Mm-hmm.
but not to know too much. I mean, I'd like to say that the words that things are called are not as important as being able to play. You know, so you just learn enough that's practical for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that everybody should get some sort of keyboard instrument where you can see the notes. Unless you're a guitarist, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but being able to look at a C and go and C sharp, and to be able to actually look at the keyboard and see why there's no note beat E sharp between E and F. I mean, like to actually see it,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it all make sense, because the keyboard is kind of the center of Western music theory.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, it takes no particular skill to push a note down. It's not like playing a guitar where you coordinate your hands, or, you know, a saxophone where you have to have an embouchure and everything,
Yeah.
or a harmonica where you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the just getting a simple keyboard to get you into thinking about actual notes, and to being able to see chords. Like here's a D minor. You can't see that on here, you
Mm-mm.
know. And even all the great jazz horn players, they all play piano. You know, Coltrane and Dizzy Gillespie and Miles Davis, all of them worked out stuff at the piano, especially brass players, because trumpet, it doesn't tell you a lot either. It's just like these three
Uh-huh.
valves that lengthen and shorten the tube. And so every good trumpet player is a good pianist. That's been my experience.
Wow. Okay.
And trombone too,
Trombone.
because that's really abstract. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Right on. Yeah.
got like this, and all the different harmonics positions of your lip.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, with draw bends, I sort of see it as a trombone slide going in reverse with your tongue, because you're just your tongue is
Mm-hmm.
further back into your throat. And one of the popular misconceptions that when people start out playing harmonica is that you have to pull hard to bend a note.
Right.
Man, you don't have to pull. It's all the resonance of the inside of your mouth. You can do it at a whisper. It's just, and overblows too. The softer you can play, the more control you can have on your instrument.
Fantastic. I like, you were mentioning it would behoove us non-pianists to learn a little bit of piano to see where the notes are. But I would also say that it might behoove us to study what notes are where on the harmonica. I mean, I would venture to guess that a lot of harmonica players really don't know what note they're playing at a given time. Even some of the greats probably. I can't speak for them,
Oh
but
yeah, because the harp gives you so much if you're playing blues. I mean, it's like a magic instrument, man. I mean, it's unbelievable how much is there. I mean, you don't have to know what notes there are to play third position. I mean, it's just crazy that this instrument can play single notes, chords, and rhythms. There's no other wind instrument that can play rhythms and chords and single notes.
yeah,
There's no other instrument that can do that except for piano and guitar,
yeah,
you know? So it's just amazing how much is there and how much of it is feeling. And like, it's like an extension of your body. And, uh, and also the breath going in both directions. There's no other instrument in the world where the breath goes in both directions and gets different notes, except for the accordion, which is the same principle. I mean, the button accordion,
mm-hmm.
concertina instruments that have different notes on the push and the pull, whatever you call it on an
Yeah,
accordion.
right.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, the instrument just gives you a lot, sort of defines what you can do. But then when you seek to go out of those bounds of the definitions that is given to you on here, and know what notes you're playing, if you're trying to play a jazz ballad that goes into a different key, that's a whole other thing. If you're trying to play body and soul, like on a, which is in D flat. I'm playing that on a G harp. I can pick up any harmonica and do that. I'll just look at something random here. What's this? It's an A harp. It's a little harder for me to do piano and that harmonica at the same time. I'll just do it with this. These are Coltrane's changes for the bridge. Anyway, one of the things I do, I practice transposing things to all 12 keys.
Okay.
On piano as well as on harmonica.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, I have this whole grid system in my head of no matter what key harmonica I pick up. I mean, here's an E flat. Okay, I don't know. I'll play body and soul on an E flat. It doesn't matter because I can play it in whatever key on the piano. Without looking. I've never played it in E before. I just happened to do that right now. I could do it in F sharp. Fun.
Yeah, I'm having fun too.
One of the things I do is I take some classical music, like a Bach Convention in D minor. Yeah, I'm playing it too fast. I learned this when I was 9 years old, whatever, and I can play it. Playing it in E flat minor and then E minor, F minor. Sorry to be sloppy. Playing with my eyes closed. Whoops. I have to slow down.
But can you play behind your back, Howard? No, I'm joking. Yes, I can.
And it's nothing. It's a silly thing, but I did it once on a video and just as a joke. Anyway, that's another long story. But, that's the thing. It's like when you're focused on trying to explore music, and it's something that I think I took the greatest delight in doing, starting from when I was maybe 19 years old. There's this huge expanse. It just keeps expanding out in front of you, and there's no end to what you can learn and to what you can learn how to do if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pressures of professional life make you have to rise to the occasion. So, for example, I had a reputation after a while, like, wow, God, you should hear this guy. He can play anything on a diatonic harmonica. Now, of course, I couldn't. Uh, People would throw stuff at me like, I don't know how to do that. But if I wanted to keep the gig, I had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And the same on piano. You play for singers and they say, okay, we're going to do Sophisticated Lady in D.
Mm-hmm.
It's written in A flat. And you have to play it in D. Suddenly it's like, oh my God. So all sorts of demands of being a professional musician, live and in the studio, where
Mm-hmm.
I did thousands of commercials in Chicago, where you get there and they shove a piece of music in front of you and you have to, okay, what harmonica am I going to use to play country music in B,
Right.
and be able to read it, so all sorts of things that challenge you, that people are giving you this stuff because they believe in you. They have enough confidence in you to give this to you. So you have to have the confidence in yourself that you can rise to the occasion and be able to do it.
Right.
So it's sort of, it takes equal amounts of guts and confidence and humility
Mm-hmm.
to be able to figure out how to really do all these things right and to sound good. Because if you don't sound good doing it, who cares if you can do it? Yeah, I can do this. It sounds terrible. Why don't you just play the chromatic? It's like,
Yeah. Right.
That's another subject, actually.
That's
It's
another. Yeah.
it's
You're
on
not a big fan of the way a chromatic sounds, right? I've heard you say that.
Well, it's interesting. Just recently, and I would like to talk about this a little bit. I released a recording of. I actually performed a chromatic harmonica concerto
Okay.
in 1988
Uh-huh.
with an orchestra, and I found the cassette of it in my attic a few years ago. I had totally forgotten that I played this thing,
Yeah.
and I didn't remember that I had a recording. So back in the 70s, someone gave me a chromatic and they said, you should play this if you're going to be playing jazz. I went, really? I tried it. I said, I can't bend notes on it. Like, why would I want to play this instrument? It's like, but then I really wanted to learn how to read on diatonic. And it was just so hard for me to figure out how to read and keep my eyes open and still play all these bends and overblows. It was a strain on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I thought, okay, here's this chromatic. I don't like playing it very much, but at least I can learn how to read on it because every note is, I don't have one sitting here, sorry, but every note is separate, and it doesn't take any skill of embouchure changing to get pitches. It just takes the coordination of blow, draw, and the slide.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught myself how to read playing classical music, a lot of Bach, and I admired the guys who played classical stuff on harmonica, like George Fields and Larry Adler,
Mm-hmm.
John Sebastian Sr. I thought this stuff was great. And of course, I admired Toots. I mean, but I didn't want to sound like him,
Yeah.
because for me, the thing I was always aiming at on the diatonic was to be able to have the fluidity, the chromatic fluidity, but with the sound of the diatonic,
Mm-hmm.
for expressing myself in jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And I also played saxophone. So, there was no, I wasn't drawn to the sound of the chromatic as a jazz instrument.
Okay.
Although like I said, I respected Toots great. I mean, he's a genius,
Sure.
because I speak about him in the present tense because his music is still here.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I've made this recording available on my website, levyland.com.
Levyland.com. Make sure
Yes.
everybody gets that right. Levyland.com.
And the page that has all of my CDs and all of the music, all the different kinds of stuff is, I think it's /music. Is that right? Yeah, levyland.com/music.
Mm-hmm.
And all the CDs are there. And I've recorded on hundreds of people's albums, but I also, have a lot of stuff out under my own name, mostly on my own label, Balk Ensemble Records. And all the stuff is available there. Stuff from over the years. I'm continuing to put out new things, but also I've been looking back and finding these treasures, some of which were actually on audio tape,
Uh-huh.
and some of which were on cassettes. And I remastered all of this stuff, and I call it From the Vaults. And so there's the last one that I put out is Well, the first one I put out was Harmonica Jazz, which was my very first album under my own name,
Yeah.
and playing jazz on diatonic in 19. I recorded it in '85,
Okay.
and it was just like golden melody, straight out of the box. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to adjust reeds, and I still like playing golden melodies. And matter of fact, I played golden melody on a few of the tunes on the album I did with great guitarist Chris Siebold. Which, do I have that here? Yeah, the Art Plus Adrenaline.
Right.
I play golden melody on this tune of mine called Fade to Black, which is a real tour de force on harmonica. And so either that one and the other one where I played harmonica, which I found this cassette of the first time that I ever played in a band uh, that we co-led. Jethro Burns. Do you know who he was?
No, I don't know that name.
He was one of the great mandolin players
Okay.
ever,
Okay.
and he played
Like
jazz.
bluegrass style? Jazz.
Well,
Okay.
he played jazz and swing. He was part of a country comedy group called Homer and Jethro.
Oh, I'm familiar with that.
Okay.
Okay.
And both those guys were A plus plus musicians and A plus plus comics. They were equal in both areas. It's remarkable how great they were. And Jethro lived in Evanston, where I live. And we used to play together with Steve Goodman. And anyway, we had this little, someone put together a little night called Super Session of Swing. And I found the cassette. And it sounded really good.
No.
And so I put the whole thing out. Ah,
All right.
that's me in 1983.
That's
being
great.
in death row. I found a picture.
Fantastic.
And so I've been going back in time and then moving forward. And, during this time of the pandemic, moving forward is a challenge because we can't go out and perform.
Right.
And I was joking with you about putting my phone in airplane mode right before we started. Like, when was the last time or the next time that I will be on an airplane?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
It was a way of life. I've toured all over the world, for many years now. And now I'm touring all over the world from my house.
Right.
And,
Thank goodness the internet is accessible that you can do that.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's something that we've all had to learn how to do. I'm very grateful for all the platforms that are given to us, and especially right now, one of the things I'm doing that is actually growing is my harmonica school with Artist Works. I have so many students from all over the world who, a lot of, it's from absolute beginners to like really, really great,
Mm-hmm.
who are trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I'm so happy that I have this school. It's one of the best decisions I ever made, was to do this, to agree to be the harmonica teacher for this great company.
Yeah.
It's actually been growing because people are so confined, and it's such a great deal. It's a 3-month subscription is less than one private lesson with me. So
Wow.
you can get tons and tons of stuff, and it's kind of interactive as well.
Mm-hmm.
Students could send in a video, and I will send them back a video. It's called a video exchange.
Okay.
And not only for them, but for everyone. Everyone can see how everyone else is learning and how everyone else plays. So everyone learns from everyone else. It's a wonderful, wonderful company. Just a brilliant concept, and I'm very proud of it. And then I've been composing a lot and recording a lot, recording CDs of my own. The last thing I did, I put out an audio book. I don't know if you know about this.
I do know about it, yes. And you did the renderings and you drew, and so you're a bit of an artist as well in a different form, right?
Yeah, I mean, the drawing thing was something I was obsessed with about in 1996, 7, and that time period. I really wanted to be able to draw, and so in this book, I incorporated poems and stories and song lyrics, and all the stories are all about music, and so it's this.
I love it. Great photo, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my wife is a really good photographer.
Nice.
I'm very lucky. Yeah, in many ways. And she said, "You got to put out an audiobook version of this." I went, okay. She was bugging me for a while, and then as the pandemic deepened, it's like, okay, Now I have no excuse because it's not like I got to go out on tour or I got to go to do this, that, and
Mhm.
the other thing. I'm home. So,
Right.
okay, now it's time to start reading the poems and
Yeah.
reading the stories. But then I realized, my God, I got to sing 12 songs. I don't sing. I mean, I can sing a little,
Yeah, sure you
but
can. Yeah, I enjoyed. I've listened to some of it. I thought you sound great.
well, thank you. I mean, I can sing some of my own songs well. Let's just put it that way, and I'm grateful that you enjoy it. That the Buddy Bolden one is really good. I have to admit, that's the first one on the
Yeah.
CD, on the album, and that's something I actually wrote a long time ago, but started revising the lyrics. And when I realized I had to put out the book, I revised a lot of the lyrics and made them stronger to a lot of these songs. And there are things I wrote over a 45 year span, um, inspired by many different styles. I mean, I used to play with John Prine and Steve Goodman. So
Yeah.
there's some sort of folk
Mhm.
things in there. And then all the jazz people I played with. So there's some bebop and there's even some sort of hip hop kind of stuff in
Nice.
there. Um, and some Brazilian flavored things. Um, and it's a lot. I played all the instruments, and um, I used loops on two of them, um, but everything else is just acoustic instruments, including percussion. One of my favorites, I played wire brushes on a microphone case.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my wire brush playing, man. That's like, you
Well, I
know,
mean, you're also a percussionist as well. I mean, let's count. You do a lot of different instruments. You play all the saxophones, right? Alto,
I
soprano,
used to.
bass.
If
Okay.
I try to pick one up right now, my cheeks would fall off, but
Yeah, yeah.
I did.
I
Yeah.
used to play sax as well. It seemed like if you didn't play a lot, more so than the harmonica, your embouchure would just go to hell. It was
Oh
just
yeah.
really quickly. But
Oh yeah.
so you play flute as well. I'm assuming clarinet falls into there because you're the same fingerings.
Yeah, I mean, well, similar, but it's a different instrument because when you overblow, it's a 12th. So it's like it's a weird system.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was never any good on clarinet. I taught myself all these instruments, though. I never had lessons on any instrument except for piano. Uh, and I also am a good mandolin player. Uh,
And guitar as well. You play guitar as well, right?
about this much guitar and a little bit of electric bass, African balafon,
Uh huh.
and some actual marimba, the Western marimba, and some Chinese instruments. Was very interested in Chinese music for many years. I play a little bit of the guzheng, which is the like a koto type instrument.
I think I
And
know what you're talking about. I think I've seen someone play that in the subway in New York, actually.
oh wow, maybe yeah, yeah. I play everything in the subway in New
They
York.
do, yeah.
Uh, it's one of the great entertainment venues of the
It
world.
really is. Totally is. People don't know that. Uh huh. It's
And
true.
ocarinas too. Oh God, I have a big collection of ocarinas.
I don't even know what that is, Howard. What is that?
Let me reach back for one. I have a tray full of them here. Let's see. Drop them. Oh, here. Here's a small one. Here's the smallest one. It's probably my favorite one.
Oh my God.
They're closed. Yeah. It's a
That's
really
beautiful, actually.
pure sine wave. And if you overblow on it, you don't get a second octave. That's why I'm staying away from the mic. It's really
Okay. Okay.
this thing will probably kill a mosquito
Yeah.
from 20 feet. It's the pitch goes up. It's so weird. It's an E flat kind of. Go harder. It's an E. Sort of in F.
Oh
It's
my gosh, that's wild.
it's pressurized,
Uh huh.
and it's a pure sine wave, man. It's like if you blow really hard, you get a super high harmonic, like 2 1/3 octaves. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. My dog just ran into the room.
I'm sure. But yeah, I've used these on a lot of recordings. There's one of my favorites. This one. I hope it still works. It's kind of old. I used it with Trio Globo on this tune in 11, and then some other things. It's a double ocarina. It's got two flutes, the two things with a division down the middle, two and a fifth of from each other. And I figured out these sounds like an African pygmy village, man.
Yeah, or like you're on a spaceship or something. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I used that in a tune called Brazilian Dorian Dream that I played on a Trio Globo recording.
Mhm.
I changed it into a Bulgarian 11/8 rhythm, and just, yeah.
You're blowing my mind. Ears are smoking underneath these.
Yeah, I had this bass line. That's a Bulgarian 11/8. It's 2 2 3 2 2 tak 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 tak. And that rhythm, you can actually play that stuff on harmonica. And I won a Grammy writing a piece in 11 on harmonica called Life in 11 with the Flecktones. Came out on our Rocket Science album.
Yeah.
And, Bela and I hung out, and he said, Howard, you working on anything you think it could, we could put on this new record? I said, well, I have all these things that I play in 11/8, the Bulgarian 11 on harmonica. And I've never really put them into a completed piece of music. And it started out by using that thing you can do between the second hole draw and the third hole blow. That Mad Cat does that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I put it into 11.
Okay.
Well, the rhythms are all from here,
Yeah.
It's a dance rhythm from Bulgaria. It's really groovy.
Yeah.
And
It's
then, I can't even remember how the piece goes. It's been so long since I played it. Yeah, something like that. I can't remember it.
beautiful.
And so I had all that stuff, and then Bela wrote some things in 11, in different kinds of 11s. And then I had a thing that I did on piano in 11/4 or 11/2. I can't even remember how it goes. It's been so long since I've toured or played.
I know.
Oh, God.
I asked you earlier. I mean, you must be enjoying being at home. I mean, you've spent a lifetime on the road almost, right? So you must be enjoying your time at home with your wife and.
Well, not so much a lifetime. I mean, I didn't really start touring seriously until I was in my mid 30s.
Okay.
I didn't have the standard musical career that a lot of guys have, like who they're great when they're 18, or like Victor Wooten,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like the whole life is music, and they get scooped up by some famous band leader, and they're like Tony Williams when he's 17 years old is playing with Miles Davis,
Right.
or the guys in Cream, they're like kids, or the Beatles. Or I had a more of a, I don't know, like a sort of a normal life. I was married the first time and had 2 kids, and did a lot of local gigs in Chicago and played in the studios a lot. And then my reputation spread gradually. And so I didn't really start touring until, like I said, I was in my like early 30s and mid 30s. That's when the world started calling, and I started touring with Paquito de Rivera, the great Cuban sax and clarinet player, and all over America and Europe. And then the Flecktones in the late, I'm skipping some things, but the late 80s, that's when
Right.
that started. And then after that, lots of playing in Europe and all over the world with Lebanese oud player named Rabi Abu Khalil,
Okay.
avant-garde jazz people in Europe, and then Kenny Loggins, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah, things, and Trio Globo, a wonderful group that I'm in, still in, hopefully, with cellist Eugene Friesen and percussionist Glenn Velez, who I've learned so much from, both of those guys. Uh, and so, yeah, I mean, I would always get infusions of fresh energy from touring and being in different countries, and it would just inspire me with all these different cultural experiences and meeting all these people, and playing with, in situations that where I was really challenged to
Hmm.
figure out new music, and bringing my own music into, around the world, like to Brazil
Hmm.
and Argentina and places like that, and Russia,
Yeah. Wow.
touring as a duo with Chris Siebold, fantastic guitarist. He can play everything. So we play everything
So you
together.
do. Yeah.
And so, yeah, sort of getting off that merry-go-round has allowed me to do all these projects, put out the audiobook, and then also an album of solo piano improvisations called Looking Inward,
Right. Hmm.
that were very compositional. Um, they were. It's one of only two albums I've made that don't have any harmonica playing on
Wow.
them.
And they were inspired by this sort of by being at home with this pandemic, right? And sort of having the opportunity to look inward. Right.
Yeah, but even a little more. I actually got the virus last March.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't tell people about it until many months later. I didn't figure it was anyone's business, but I got really sick.
Hmm.
Um, I did a little tour. I flew, and I, did all the things that you normally do. And I came home, and I started feeling like crap, and
Hmm.
took, I was sick for weeks, and it took at least a month after I got better to start feeling like myself again. And that's when I started doing a bunch of recording, um, all these improvisations, as well as recording tracks for other people. I started feeling well enough to do that. I mean, I wasn't at first at all. And so I have actually, the music sort of like brought me back to who I am, but it feels a little different, and I've been, the looking inward thing was really, it really is looking inward.
Hmm.
And I started to imagine all sorts of scenarios. Instead of living them, I was living them in my head,
Hmm.
my imagination, and just playing like the soundtrack for these things that I was thinking of and imagining, kind of like a movie soundtrack,
Yeah.
imaginary movie. And so that's why all those improvisations sound so coherent and structured, because I wasn't playing the piano.
Uh-huh.
I was playing
You were
accompaniment.
underscoring these thoughts.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm also trying to write another harmonica concerto based on Eastern European and gypsy music.
All
I
right.
already have quite a bit of it. It's just a matter of actually writing out all the orchestration, which is something that's very difficult for me. I don't have any training in that at all. I mean, I never studied orchestration, and I never studied arranging. I've just done all these things just from necessity,
Hmm.
you know. Like when I was asked to compose my first harmonica concerto, it was this orchestra called me. I don't know if you know the story, but they wanted me to play a chromatic harmonica concerto, and this was around 1999 or something like that. I can't remember the exact year, 2000. And I said, well, I quit playing the chromatic a long time ago. And actually, when I performed that concerto in '88, that's on it's not a CD, but it's a download album,
Right.
along with another concerto that someone else wrote for me on diatonic.
Okay.
Um, they're both live performances, but I had not been playing chromatic harmonica for about 6 years, and I took this on as a challenge in 1988, and I practiced every day for 6 months. And then at the end of that, I put it back in the case because I just thought, for me to get really great on this, I don't have enough time in this life to
Hmm.
become like a great chromatic virtuoso. And there are already a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, some guys who were incredible, Robert Bonfiglio and
Hmm.
the late Franz Kamel. He was, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's an Austrian
No,
musician.
but Bonfiglio.
Chchamel. Unbelievable. He
Okay.
passed away. It's just like made you forget there was a slide.
All right.
Just a terrifyingly good player. Um, and so I just thought, this is my mission here.
Mm.
This and playing the piano and writing music. I put it back in the case with a great respect for the instrument and the people who are great at it. Um, but anyway, this orchestra called me and I said, well, I don't play chromatic anymore, but uh, if you're interested, maybe I could write a concerto for myself to play on diatonic. And they said, we'll get back to you. And I thought, oh, dang, well,
Right. Right.
they're not going to get back to me. I totally forgot about it. And it was a suburban orchestra, good orchestra in the south suburbs called the Illinois Philharmonic.
Hmm.
And about 3 months later, I got a phone call. Hi, this is so-and-so from the Illinois Philharmonic. We're really interested in having you compose a concerto. I said, you are? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, now I've really done it to myself. I don't know how to compose a concerto. I've never written anything for an orchestra before. My God. And I went, oh, that's great. And so, like, I had a commission and a deadline, so I had to do it. And then it was just a matter of, wow, what's it going to sound like? I mean, how's it going to start? And, but I had written one other long classical piece before, which is called Harmonia Mundi, which is for a chamber group in Chicago called the Rembrandt Chamber Players. They commissioned me in 1995. It was violin, viola, cello, flute, and oboe, all great musicians. Um, and this one, I'm very proud of it, and it's actually on the CD along with the concerto. Uh, the first performance ever and the best performance ever of the piece live, an excellent recording done, professional live recording,
Uh-huh.
multi-track. And so I wasn't totally like a babe in the woods. I had a vague idea of how to jot down that many notes on a piece of paper.
Right.
Uh, and since I understand string instruments, because playing mandolin and having worked a lot with Eugene Friesen, the cellist,
Hmm.
uh, and so I understood where all the notes are on violins, violas, cellos, bass. I mean, I play a little bass,
Yeah.
and it's for a chamber orchestra, which had flute and clarinet, and I play flute and I play a little clarinet, so I knew I wasn't going to write anything that didn't fit on the instruments.
Right.
And there was percussion, so obviously I could play some drums, and I understood and some timpani. I know what those things should sound like.
Yeah.
And so I wrote it with pencil and paper, uh, sometimes out of my head, sometimes just on piano, sometimes on harmonica when I was traveling in hotel rooms or whatever. And I got it done in time for the deadline, and we played it. And uh, I've performed this piece about 35 times all over the world.
I love that. Wow.
The recording that's on the CD is with the Czech National Symphony in Prague.
Okay.
And yeah, that was a thrill to play it in concert with them after we recorded it in their beautiful concert hall called the Rudolfinum on the Lata River, I believe it is.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, Prague is really wonderful. So yeah, I've had all these
Wonderful.
experiences. The music has taken me all over the world, and um, I
You're
feel
writing a memoir, right? Aren't you?
actually, yeah. The memoir is basically all about my musical experiences, some of which spill over into personal ones and vice versa. Um, and yeah, I have about 70 stories written so far.
Wow.
Uh,
When will this be really? Can you give us maybe like a little Reader's Digest on, something of note from that, a story or something?
oh, I have some really long stories about
Okay.
my tour of Syria and Jordan with Rabia Abu Khalil, which was like a movie.
Hmm.
And some crazy adventures that happened to me in New York on the streets. When I was playing music on the
Yeah.
street.
Really? I didn't know you did that.
Oh yeah, and when I moved back to Manhattan in 71, 72, and experiences touring with Kenny Loggins and trips around the world. I flew around the world one time in 10 days. I I
Wow.
didn't realize I'd be doing it, but it was with Rabi Abu Khalil. We played in Montreal, Den Haag, and Hong Kong, no, and Taiwan rather.
Okay.
And then I did a recording session in LA. So in
Wow.
10 days, I flew Chicago to Montreal to Amsterdam,
Yeah.
Amsterdam to Taipei,
Uh-huh.
Taipei to LA, and LA to Chicago.
Oh my. You didn't know what day or month it was, let alone what time of day. Your jet lag
Um,
must have been.
I really don't remember how I felt. It was just so intense, and also the performing was intense.
Uh-huh.
Um, there was another adventure I had when I was in the Flectons. We I didn't even get jet lag from it because we played in Ireland. Is that on your end?
I, I, I don't I don't hear anything.
Oh, it must be on my end.
What do you?
Someone's calling me. Hmm. Don't know where it was coming from. Um, it was Ireland, Scotland, and Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and it messed me up while I was doing it. But when I got home, I had no jet lag because it was just so like crazy to travel that far
Uh-huh.
and to leave at these outlandish hours, like 3 in the morning and 5 in the morning, from places and buses and planes and taxis and
Mm-hmm.
changing airports. And uh, there was some wild stuff. And one of the things that happened in Israel is I was thinking about Brazilian choro music, which is one of my favorite types of music. Um, and I called my friends, some Brazilian friends of mine in Chicago. I just was in the and emailed people in Brazil, and I opened up the window of my hotel room, and I started hearing Brazilian choro music playing outside. I went, "That's really weird. I'm thinking about this music, and someone's playing a record." And I looked; it wasn't a record. It was a band playing Brazilian music in Eilat, Israel, on the Red Sea. I, I, I was there for the Red Sea Jazz Festival. I went, this is impossible. Am I awake or am I
Yeah.
dreaming this
Right.
thing? And so I brought some harmonicas down. I said, excuse me, can I sit in with you guys? And they went, you know this music? I said, yeah, I do. They were this Israeli Brazilian choro band called Chorole.
Wow.
Um, just crazy. So I write about a lot of things like that, like strange coincidences that
Uh-huh.
happen. There's actually a story in the book called Flunky Jazz that's about an outlandish and bizarre coincidence that uh, I wrote a piece of music. It was actually a free improvisation on this CD called what's it called Tonight and Tomorrow. Uh, I decided to take a break from all the highly structured music. And this, I'm playing piano and harmonica with a great bass player and drummer, Larry Gray on bass and Ernie Adams on drums. Um, I said, let's do some free improvs, man. I mean, it was just 2 sessions. Like the guy who ran this label called Chicago Sessions wanted to do it the way they did all the Blue Note albums. Like you have 2 6-hour sessions, and that's the record.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, man, let's just play free. I know we can do this. And so we did it. And I named it after this crazy thing that had happened in my life where an absolutely impossible coincidence. You have to, buy the book or
Yeah,
the
I
audio book.
will buy the book. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's called Flunky Jazz.
And it's
And
available on your website, right?
yes, it is,
Yeah.
along with like everything else. And
Anything else?
matter of fact, I'd kind of like to play something, if you don't mind.
I would
That's
love that.
it,
Absolutely.
it's me and myself and I. It's a track, and it sort of it's a synthesis of blues and Bach, and it's just one of those things that uh, I started playing a bunch of the Bach flute sonatas on harmonica because some of them really fit well on harmonica. And I've played a lot of classical stuff written for flute on the harmonica
Huh.
and other instruments too.
Okay. Yeah, good call.
But Bach, you know, it bears a lot of resemblance to jazz, a lot of Bach's music. And uh, some of the keyboard parts in the sonatas, he never really wrote them out. They used what was called figured bass, which is kind of like a jazz lead sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So they would write the melody and the bass line and chord symbols. And so all the keyboard players of the time they knew how to do this, since Bach didn't have time to write out the whole accompaniment. He was busy writing about 150 cantatas for his church and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, a few other little things along the way.
Yeah.
And so this one was the first one he wrote, and he actually wrote out the keyboard part. But the first part of the second movement, which is slow, it always sounded like blues to me. I mean, these are the first notes of the melody. It's it's off the wall, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, this thing sounds bluesy.
Uh-huh.
And so I had this notion in my head, and I had played this straight too, and along with two or three other sonatas that I had played straight, except I would improvise on repeats, just like, because that's what they did back then. Why do you think they had a repeat? It wasn't to play the same thing. It's like, here's the head, now you blow, basically.
Yeah.
And so I thought, man, I want to give this a sort of a gospel-y, bluesy feel. And I practiced it a lot. And then I just threw away the music and I had it all memorized. And I did the piano part in one take one morning. It just sort of came over me. And then I recorded the harmonica, which was harder for me. I was trying to do a blend between playing the notes that Bach wrote, or at least some of them,
Mm-hmm.
and improvising. And so I have this track, hopefully on this old iPhone here, that I can play along with. I hope the balance is okay. We'll see.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. gorgeous.
Thank you.
Unbelievable, man. You've blown my mind today, for sure. Oh, wow. Howard, thank you so much.
And that's also available. The
Great.
recording, and I wrote out the piano part, and I transcribed my harmonica part, which is very similar to what I just played.
Okay.
So the music's available, and the recording of that is available. So I've been using this pandemic time to sort of, like I said, to go back and take care of stuff that's been sitting around for a while, as well as like trying to forge ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I have new albums planned, harmonica recordings,
Mm-hmm.
and just that's what you have to do. You just when life throws these things at us, we have to figure out ways of engaging the actual reality that we're
Mm-hmm.
living in, and not retreat into our basements. And also to stay connected, which is, so I'm really, really glad that you asked me to do this, because I do get to feeling kind of isolated sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm used to relating to people.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing that.
Yeah.
And so
And
I
you're
really
so good at
appreciate.
it. You're
Oh,
so
thank you.
good at it. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Well, you've just blown my mind with these incredibly difficult pieces and lofty, lofty pieces of music, and I just want to say that you had me when I heard you play. I had known about you for years. I started playing Golden Melodies because the guy that showed me how to play harp was like, "What are you playing?" And I'm like, I showed him what I was. He's like, "No, no, no. Howard Levy plays Golden Melodies." And he and I, my friend and I both play a lot of single note melodies and things like that, and he was right. That was the harp, and I've played that harmonica for years, because of Howard Levy.
oh,
And another thing is, this isn't Bach, but it moved me in a huge way when I saw you when I saw you play Your Mama Don't Dance in live at the Redwoods. I thought to myself, that's everything I want to be as a harmonica player. Right there in 4 minutes, it
hmm.
was everything that I wanted to be. And so to meet you today and hear you play all of these wonderful other things that I, of course, know. I know your history, so I know that you're playing other things other than rock and roll. But but
Hey,
that moment for me was a magical moment that I have just played over and over the years, and I go to YouTube and I watch the video and watch you do that. And
wow, I've never watched that. Not in like since I recorded it, probably. I mean, that was a fantastic experience working with Kenny.
what a talent himself. Yeah.
Oh man, that guy's a great musician and a very inspiring singer
Mm.
to work with. Very incredibly soulful every single night, and yeah, that was like one of those turning points in my life, was recording that concert with him. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say hearing you play on that concert with him was maybe a bit of a turning point in my life as well. So,
Oh, thank you
yeah,
so
man,
much.
absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. You're a true gentleman, and I'm so grateful and honored that you agreed to be on the Harpslinger podcast. And I can't wait for everyone to check this out. They're just gonna they're gonna have smoke coming out of their ears as I did. They're gonna love this. So.
No, I don't have any.
You don't. No, but I think I do. I think I might. Yeah. Well, Howard,
Okay.
God bless you. Get through this. I know you're going to be in the deep freeze here for probably a week here with this weather
Oh,
rolling.
more.
More. Yeah.
Chicago, once it clamps down, man.
It puts the hammer down. Yeah.
Woo!
Well, stay warm, stay inside. Don't shovel too much snow until it's, a necessity.
Yeah.
And yeah. And maybe we can do this again someday down the road. That would be wonderful.
Would love to, Jamie. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks for your time, brother. Have a great one. Be good. Peace.